back to another Just 5 Mins. So, what have we got this time? We've got running Azure AI locally. Okay, you heard that right. Not the whole of Azure, just to want to make that clear. You are able to run specific components of the Azure AI suite. So, um, as you probably know, or probably might have heard, that you know, with OpenAI, ChatGPT, and all of that, Microsoft put a massive investment into OpenAI. I think it was 30 something billion or something. But interestingly, along with other cloud vendors, Azure have had some AI services for quite a number of years, one of them being under the banner of Azure Cognitive Services. Okay, so this was a set of AI-based services. Azure. Amazon AWS have got similar things, and there's lots of others out there as well, of course. But Azure Cognitive Services had things like Azure Cognitive Search. And I looked at that years ago, actually about 5+ years, if not even a little longer. Because you can train the Azure search on PDFs, database, text files, and essentially what it does, it presents you with a really easy way of doing search, but unlike normal standard search engines. This is using AI to actually go and work that out, and it's very good. It sort of, if you've got PDFs, for instance, when you use Azure Cognitive Search, it will do things like highlight the bit in the PDF. So when it does all that extraction and identification and whatever, it's doing that sort of level as well, and it will work off database records, flat text, unstructured text, whatever. And also for document recognition as well. So I've been slowly, more or less a snail's pace, I have to admit, getting that working with a product for the company I work with, a product called BPA, to possibly look at using the document recognition, things like invoices, purchase orders, statements, all those sorts of things, where you've got header data, you've got all that column table data that you need to extract, and there's been loads of tools out there for years that will do this, but you have to either train the documents or have some extra software running. But Azure Cognitive Services, certainly for the form recognizer, that is where you can throw whatever, invoice, purchase orders, whatever, at this, and you don't have to train it. It will actually do a really good job of actually extracting the data in a meaningful format and structure for you. Okay, so anyway, but whether that comes down, that's all these services that are running in the cloud, which is brilliant. And for most things, that is all you need. You don't need to worry about it. But what if you do have that concern, or you do have that governance factor that you need to keep that data local? So that brings me on to what we've got today. Those, not the whole of Azure AI, I just want to make that clear. You have to be quite specific, like just the form recognizer or the search component or things like that. And essentially, one way that you can do it is you can download Docker containers. And if you don't know about Docker, I've done an episode on that before, but I'm sure most people these days have heard of Docker and containers. And the idea is you can run those specific elements of like the Azure AI world. And by the way, this also applies for Azure OpenAI, so the newer services as well. You do have to go through a gating process, they call it. So you have to get approved to be able to use these services. But once you do, you can run local Docker services. So you can literally ring fence that whole process. So certainly for the search, it won't go out to the internet. It won't allow, external access. It will just look at the data locally. And the same thing with all the document invoices, POs, where you might have sensitive data. Sure, Azure, like a lot of others, have got good security, but this means you can have all of that running locally. Okay. The downside, and I did write a little blog post about this as well, is the Docker containers will run locally on my little Core i5 or Core i7 laptop with 20 gig of RAM, but it does start to get very warm. I think you do need a reasonable infrastructure, not overkill, but reasonable infrastructure to be able to run these containers. But the point being is that you can run them locally. However, it will one aspect will be your usage gets registered in Azure still. So you still have to pay. It is a bit cheaper, I believe, but you do need to go and investigate that yourself. But so you do have to still pay for the usage. But the point being is that you can run all of this infrastructure locally. As I say, you have to componentize what bits that you want to run. You can't run the whole of Azure AI, but there you go. That's what I've got for this time around. Slightly over yet again, but take care and we'll catch you on the next one.